The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, running solo today. This is a quickie episode, so let's jump right into it. Had a fight night card this past weekend, coming live from the Apex in Las Vegas. Tuivasa versus Tybura, Fight Night 239. And let's jump right into this main event. In the heavyweight division, we had Martin Tybura defeating Tuivasa by technical submission in the first round. And Tuivasa looked good in the beginning of the first round. Caught Tybura with an elbow, opened him up, was busting up pretty good. And then the tides turned later on in the round. Tybura was able to get the takedown and eventually get that RNC, the rear naked choke, on the ground. And where do we go with both of these fighters now? Because Tybura was able to jump in that top 10, top 8, I should say. He's ranked number 8. And let's look at some people who are ranked ahead of him. A few people he's already faced already. You got Volkov, number 6. And Tybura lost to Volkov back in 2021. You also have Spivak, who's tied with Tybura at number 8, and Tybura's got a win over Spivak. This is back in February 2020. And I don't know if you do a rematch with Tybura right now. So you know what I say? I say throw him in there with the number 7 guy, a guy who's coming off of a loss, a young prospect that they were looking to shoot to the moon. Get him in there with Jolton Almeida. Let's see what they could do. And looking on the other side of things, Tuivasa, this is his 4th loss in a row. And it's not like he's been losing to bums. I mean, he's been losing to some very high-level people. Before the Tybura loss, he lost to Volkov back in September last year. And he's got a loss against Sergey Popovich, who knows a heavy hitter, so no shame in that. And he also lost to Cyril Gahn back in September 2022, former title contender. So, I mean, I think he needs to take a step back. I mean, a lot of times it's mental. So he's number 10 now. He fell back a couple spots. So I think you pair him up with somebody who fought a couple weeks ago, Rosenstruck. I think that'll be a battle, man. 2 big boys going at it, throwing them things. So I like to see that. But hopefully Tuivasa takes some time off, can reconfigure some things and comes back strong. But let's jump into the co-main event. In the welterweight division, you had Brian Battle versus Ange Lusa in a no contest. So with this one, both Battle and Lusa came out the gate swinging and had a brief scramble on the ground and got back up to the feet. And Battle was able to get the clinch against the fence. And once they broke, Battle started peppering Lusa on the feet. Then with about a minute into the second round, thumb to the eye by Battle on Lusa, and wasn't able to continue. And after the fight, they got into a little bit of a skirmish. They had to be separated because Battle was saying that Lusa took the easy way out and he was beating his ass and he thought he could continue on. And of course, Lusa didn't take kindly to that. And I mean, it was entertaining. It's always entertaining seeing drama. But man, I say you run it back. I mean, even though Battle was getting the better of him, still unfinished business, and it makes sense just to run it back. Bad blood between them, so wouldn't be mad at them running that back. But let's take a look at this next fight in the light heavyweight division. Ovince St. Preux defeating Kennedy Nzechukwu by split decision. OSP kind of turning back the hands of time. And this was an entertaining one. I gave round 1 to OSP for being a slightly busier fighter, but it wasn't a lot of high output in that first round. And in round 2, the output picked up, and it was another close round, but I thought OSP landed the heavier shots. And then round 3 was straight up fireworks. It's a back and forth between the two guys. OSP had a pretty dominant first half of the round and dropped Kennedy with an uppercut early, but then later on in the round, Kennedy came back strong and looked like he had some more gas in the tank and was landing the harder shots. But at the end, the judges gave the win to OSP, and I think I agree with them, even though it was a split decision. So OSP is no spring chicken. So what do you do with him next? I don't think you throw him in there with a top 15 guys. Just give him another old guy fight. But if you do throw him to a top 15, I think you put him in there with like a Dominic Reyes and see who comes out the victor in that one. But yeah, that OSP fight was probably the fight of the night because those guys were getting in back into it and back and forth. And like I said, rock'em sock'em robot. So if you didn't watch that one, I highly recommend. And let's move on to this next fight in the featherweight division. You had Christian Rodriguez defeating Isaac Bulgarian by split decision, and this was another good one. Bulgarian had a dominant first round. He looked good in those grappling exchanges and bust Rodriguez up. And then in the second round, Bulgarian looked good too, although Rodriguez had some bright spots where he touched Bulgarian with some shots. And then in that third round, Rodriguez was able to turn the tables around and won the striking battle and won the grappling battle. And Rodriguez got the nod from the judges, even though I disagree with it. I had Bulgarian winning the first two rounds, but you know what they say, if you don't want the judges deciding on it, you got to finish it. But, you know, that goes back to a subject that we brought up in the past. What do you give more credit for, control of the fight or damage? Because I thought Bulgarian had firm control in that second round, you know, but Rodriguez was lighting them up with some good shots, even though it wasn't like a whole lot. So guessing the judges took into consideration more damage. So like I said, I wish it was a more clear, decisive like rules to what the judges give more credit for. And you know, more recently they've been giving credit for more damage, but I just want it solidified and set in stone, you know, so we can get a better idea. But let's move on to this next fight in the women's bantamweight division. You had Macy Chasson defeating Fanny Kinzad by submission. And Chazon got the early takedown, and there was a scramble down there, and Chazon was able to take Kianzad's back and secure the rear naked choke. And I think they said Chazon was on the brink of retiring, and I think maybe her wife was able to talk her out of it and inspire her, but she was able to get the win. So shout out to her, and hopefully she keeps continuing. But let's talk about the curtain jerker on this card. We had Gerald Mershot in the middleweight division defeating Ryan Barberina by technical submission. And in that first round, Barberina did more damage on the feet, despite Mershot getting the two takedowns. So I give that first round to Barberina. And in round two, Barberina fended off a couple of takedown attempts, but Mershot eventually got the takedown and put him to sleep with the rear naked choke. And with that win, Mershot is tied with Anderson Silva with the most finishes in the middleweight division history. And that kind of surprised me. I didn't realize how much longevity Gerald Mershot had, but hats off to him because, you know, Silva is widely considered the GOAT. So when you're in the same conversation with him, you're doing something right. But that brings us to the end of the main card and some other notable fights that are on the prelim. You had Mike Davis in the catchweight defeating Nathan Levy by submission. You had Jafel Fijo defeating Ode Osborne by submission. You also had Jacqueline Omarim defeating Corey McKenna by submission in the women's strawweight division. And then in the lightweight division, you had Diagos Moises defeating Mitch Ramirez by TKO in the third round, something you don't see often, TKO by leg kicks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the commentator said this is only the 7th fight in the UFC that got stopped by leg kicks. And this UFC has been around for 30 years now. You would think it'd be more than that. Watching highlights, like, man, I thought more fights ended in TKO leg kicks, but I guess not. They said that was the 7th one. And Ramirez's leg was trash, so you can't blame him for not being able to get up. Morris was working those leg kicks, and I think after the fight, Morris called out Dan Hooker, so it's a good way to promote yourself. So I wouldn't be mad seeing that if they could actually make that fight happen. But that'll bring us to the end of the show, and for those out there who forgot, these videos will be made exclusive on the Belly Up Sports YouTube page, but the audio will be available on all major podcast platforms. And like I've mentioned before, we won't be able to do these for all the fight night cards, but we will do them as often as we can because, we want to continuously put content out there. So when we can, we'll do these quickie episodes. And I don't know if we'll be able to do one for the next week's fight because, they've been throwing on a lot of fights in between now and 300. Next week, you have Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Heba. So I don't know if we do a quickie episode for that, but we might end up doing just a full-out episode for the Atlantic City card because there are a lot of notable fighters on that one. So, stay tuned to our social media and we'll give y'all more info on when we release things. But that'll do it for this quickie episode of Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.